Hi guys, I was debating whether or not to make videos this week, but I don't have a community tab, so there was no way to tell you guys that I'll be taking a break. But so I'm sorry if I'm off my game, but also I figured today is the International Women's Day. I felt maybe it would be nice if I could celebrate women and share with you who my favorite female authors are. So if this sounds interesting to you, just stay tuned. Hello and welcome to another Mystery Monday. So today I'll be talking to you about my favorite mystery / thriller authors who all happen to be female, and I'll be doing some recommendations if you want to check them out, which more than anything I recommend you do because they are amazing. I will start with my honorable mention. I have here Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. I really enjoyed reading this book. She's a new author. I think she has released 3 books. I have them all. And there's another one coming up in June, Rock, Paper, Scissors. But I really liked the way that she did. And I think she did a really good job gripping you from the beginning, because I picked up this book based off the description. My name is Amber Reynolds. There are 3 things you should know about me. 1, I'm in a coma. 2, my husband doesn't love me anymore. And 3, yeah, you guessed it, sometimes I lie. I mean, and this book did not disappoint. It was fast-paced, it was crazy, and it basically we hear the story from Amber's point of view during 3 timelines. So we have the present, where she is conscious but her body is in a coma and she's trying to figure out what happened. And through the present, we know from the moment she's on the bed what's going on into the future. Then we have Then, which basically tells the story of her life, starting 2 weeks prior to the accident, leading up to the accident, so we know everything about Amber's life in the present. And then we have Before, which is told through Amber's point of view as a, I think, 9-year-old or 10-year-old. It's diary entries. So we get to know things about the past, and she has had quite a life. I highly recommend this, and more than anything, I want everybody to read this book. So I'm not the only one that has that song stuck in its head. I'll sing it to you right now, just so you know. You're welcome. There is this part when she's in a coma and she's having these visions or a dream that she sees this girl. This is not really a spoiler. I'm just gonna tell you what Alice Feeney did with Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is fantastic. I work with children. I cannot sing the song normally anymore, because every time I start singing it is a conscious effort, because I keep thinking of this version which goes like, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder who you are. Up above the world so sad, it's not the drugs, you're going mad. I can't sing, I know that, but like, if an author can make that song be stuck to my head and it's not even like a big part of the plot and it's said once, I can't wait to see what else Alice Feeney is gonna bring to the table. Just saying. Sometimes I Lie, I recommend it, and you're very welcome. Now, I will start with Jane Austen. I have this book here, and it so happens to be that Pride and Prejudice is one of my favorite books by her anyway. But I wanted to mention Jane Austen because she is one of the first main female authors, and I think she set up the space and gave every female author that can write now, I think I think everybody should thank Jane Austen for starting to pave the way amongst other greats, but she just happens to be my favorite of the time. And Pride and Prejudice, I just love it. We basically just follow Elizabeth during her debutante years and the choices that she makes and trying to be empowered and making her own choices. Even though it probably means making some people unhappy, making hasty decisions, and going against some of the societal pressures of the time. And that's another thing I like about Jane Austen, is that all her female characters, whether you like them or not, they're really amazing and they're really feminists, I guess. And not to mention, I don't really read romance anymore, but the trope of, you know, enemies to lovers has always been my favorite. And I'm just going to say 2 words for you, Mr. Darcy. You're welcome. And I chose this one because I have this version, which is one of my favorite. I have A Christmas Carol as well. It's the book to table classic. I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but it basically is the book, right? So you have the chapters and everything, but in this one, after you read all the book, you have recipes to have your own tea party or high tea. And the recipes on this one happen to be from Martha Stewart, which I'm not going to go into it. It can be controversial, but I love the woman as well. So I figure I'll bring this because it's 2-in-1. And on the Christmas Carol version of this series I have, it has like a whole feast meal from the time. But all the recipes for the high tea are inspired by the novel. So if you like cooking or things like that, I think this is a great addition to add to your bookcase as well. So next, I think I'll share with you some books that I have already read, and they, again, are my favorite female authors. So I will start by mentioning CJ Tudor. She's fantastic. This is her 4th book. It was just released this year. And I've read 3 of her books. This is my favorite so far. It's amazing. I'm not going to say anything about this book or CJ Tudor because she's my next author sandwich episode coming up next Monday. So stay tuned if you want to hear all about this. Meanwhile, just buy the book and read it. Like, honestly, you're not going to regret it. But please come back next Monday because I can't wait to share with you that book and, you know, everything I love about CJ Tudor. Shirley Jackson is another one of my favorite female authors. I think she paved a lot of the way for horror. She was really good about creating characters. And We Have Always Lived in a Castle. It is my favorite book by her. It is so anxious, so deep, so dark. It makes you feel all the feels, good and bad. It shows what's bad about nature, what's good about nature. It basically follows Mary Cat and Constance, 2 sisters who live with their Uncle James in the house. Mary Cat, I think she is on the spectrum, even though that's not said. And or Constance is, it reads as if she's an agoraphobe, and they basically don't leave the house since an incident that happened years before that everybody else in the family has died. The family following suspicions, nobody was accused, but the villagers are not very nice or kind to them. So they basically just avoid them as a plague, but they have their little routine and they live happy in their own happiness until the cousin Charles comes to the house and puts everything upside down. But I feel this is a really beautiful study in human nature. It's an amazing character study, and for me it reads as though it's not a haunted house book, but it's a story about how houses can become haunted. Just pick it up. Amazing. Next, you heard me talk about Lucy Foley before. I don't know how many times I have mentioned The Hunting Party. So now I am here to recommend the guest list. And by the way, all of these books that I have read, I do have my full review on Goodreads. You can go check it out. But the guest list was my favorite of the two. And so exciting. Lucy Foley has another book coming up either later this year or next year. That's amazing. It's yet untitled, but it is coming, and I can't wait to see what she's saying. She brings this narrative where you start off the book knowing someone died, but you don't know who died or who killed, and you get to know the events leading up to it and getting to know all the characters. So you start guessing who killed the person. But before you guess that, you have to guess who would have been the murderer. So you have so many theories. It's like, if this person died, then I think this person did it. And it was like, I don't know. It's just very exciting. It reads very fast. It is an isolated mystery. It sets off on an island in the middle of a storm in Ireland. So we have the couple going to the island, and the story is told through the point of view of the bride, the plus one, the best man, the wedding planner, and the bridesmaid. And I don't think you're going to be disappointed. There are some things that I don't know. These characters are so unlikable with the exception of two. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to give too much into it. But there's two characters that I really loved. Everybody else, I hated it. I hated them. It's a bunch of bullies. The men are so toxic and sexist and misogynist. And like, there's a point in the book, it was like, I don't care. Half of them can die with the exception of these two. So as long as neither of them died or the murderer, I will be happy. But you still need to know, like, I've never been so invested in unlikable characters as with this book. And Lucy Foley is so sweet. She's like the sweetest soul. Just look for her interviews. There's plenty of them on YouTube. She's the kindest person ever. So how can you not support her? Next, I have my girl, Sophie Hannah. I have a sandwich author, like an author sandwich video coming up for her soon. I really love her. She is responsible for the revival of Poirot. And she loves Agatha Christie. And you know how I feel about people that love Agatha Christie. And now she is so sweet, so cute. Like, honestly, you have to follow her on Twitter and on Instagram. Her posts are just so heartwarming. Like, I really like her. And she has some books that are standalones and they're really good as well. And they also have the Spilling CID series. And Kind of Cruel is one of the series. Happened to be my favorite one of the ones I've read so far. And it basically tells the story of Amber. She goes to a hypnotist because she can't sleep. She has insomnia. And during her session, she catches herself saying, kind, cruel, kind of cruel. And she doesn't know. She's never heard those words before. She never read them. She doesn't know why it came up. She doesn't know what it means. So she's already concerned about that. And then she gets home. 2 hours later, she is arrested or called for an interview with the suspicion of killing a woman she has never seen. She is not in jail right now, even though she is a suspect. So she takes it upon herself to figure out not only what those words means, where she saw them, is if that's related to the murder, who the killed person is, why is she a suspect, and who actually killed her because she wants to clean her name. This book read so nice, so fast. It was just so beautiful. The end was very satisfying. Sophie always plays fair, which is another thing that I really do like. And usually her solutions are really sometimes out there, but they are all so very human. You can see the person that commits the murders in her book actually joined that if they just lost it, or if they had a breakdown, or if they are just mean. So I think Sophie Hannah is very creative in her own books, the way that she spins the tales, and this one grabs you from the beginning to the end, and forever you're gonna catch yourself just thinking about that, you know, kind of cruel. So Sophie Hannah, kind of cruel. It was next on my list. I do have another book to share with you guys. The Sanatorium is a brand new debut novel by Sarah Pierce. It just came out this year in February. I'll be talking more about that when I have a video coming up soon about the January, February releases of the year. This was on my TBR, but I just couldn't put it down. I read it right away. Sarah is another cute person. I've been following her on Instagram. She is just so sweet. And this book, it felt vintage. It is modern. It is set in modern times. But it reads like a proper old school mystery. And again, like my favorite trope is isolated mystery. So we get this there. So basically we have these people going to this hotel in the Alps, in the Swiss Alps, to celebrate an engagement party. The bride disappears. Some bodies are found. You know, someone from there has to have done it. Who's the next victim? How they're connected? The hotel used to be a sanatorium. Just stay tuned for my book where I go a little more in depth about this one. But it is very atmospheric. It is very vintage, very easy to read. And I just found out it's gonna be part of a series. How exciting is that? Ellen, our detective, even though she's not officially the detective of her book, she is a real life detective who's on a break because of something that happened on her last case. But Ellen is coming back, and I can't wait to read more of her books because I really liked her as a character. And that's it, the Sanatorium. Brand new female author. Let's support her, guys. It's her debut novel. Talking about debut or new novels, I'm gonna hop into my TBR, which are 3 books that I have here to share with you that I have not read yet, but I have really high hopes. So I'll start with Sleep. I've read C.L. Taylor's upcoming book. Stay tuned for my April new release video. I'll be going through her last holiday, but you can pre-order now. I guarantee you, you're gonna love it. But I just fell in love reading the book with the way that C.L. Taylor builds characters and atmosphere and the way that she tells the story. It was very engaging. I have high hopes. She automatically became someone that I want to read more books from. So I ordered 2 of her books and like one of thrillers, and she also has some YA books, and I ordered The Island that also came out this year, and I'm still salty that NetGalley didn't let me read it in advance, but I bought it anyway, okay, NetGalley? But before I read The Island, I want to read Sleep, which it sounds like just my cup of tea. I love the way C.L. Taylor tells stories, and why shouldn't I want to read about this isolated hotel where you have 7 guests, 7 secrets, 1 killer? I'm sorry, I just came past, so that's gonna be my next C.L. Taylor book to read. I have such high hopes for it, and all her book descriptions sound fantastic. So this is on my TBR, and I don't know if you can see here. I usually And I don't know if you can see here, like whenever I pick up a book and I see that my favorite authors recommend another author, I automatically like it. And Lucy Foley said it's breathlessly gripping. So gripped I'll be. Now I have 2 books that I mentioned on my March new releases. You can check the video here and I'll leave it on the description box. The first one is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I'm really looking forward to this book, and the cover is just stunning. I won't go over it again because I just rambled last week on it. And the Jigsaw Man is another book that I mentioned on that video. I don't have a copy because it doesn't come up until I think next week, the 16th, and I can't wait. I already pre-ordered it. So all you need to know from the Jigsaw Man is that you have a copycat, and then a serial killer chasing that copycat, and a cop chasing both of them. I'm looking forward to that, and that sounds fantastic, and I have high hopes for it, and I have a feeling that Nadine Matheson is going to be one of my new favorite authors, and another one that I haven't read yet, but I know that Ruth Ware really likes her. She has a whole Ruth Galloway series, but I just had to grab this book, which is next on my TBR, and I have the Postscript Murder too. I ordered these from Britain because, you know, this cover is so much beautiful. Look at this cover. And now look at this cover. You tell me. You tell me. Right? It is beautiful and it sounds right up my alley. So on this one, it is part of a series. Ellie Griffith started a series with a detective called Harbinder Kaur. I'll put the name right here. I don't know if I'm saying it right or not. But we follow Claire Cassidy. She is a teacher, a professor. One of her colleagues dies, and there is a note with a line from a book. Harbinder investigates and interviews Claire, even though at the moment she's not sure if Claire is a suspect or an expert witness. But Claire gets invested in the mystery as well, so she starts her own diary where she puts all her thoughts about the case, including her suspicions and things like that. And before she knows it, she starts noticing that there's a different handwriting in her diaries. Chun chun. This is one of those too that, you know, I looked at the cover, I fell in love. I read the description and I was like, I just need to know. So I have high hopes for this, and something tells me I'll be loving Ellie Griffith as well. Now I'm getting to my pièce de résistance. I love all of these. These are very beautiful women, but you guys know how I feel about 2 specific authors. And I guess you've been waiting all this time. Is she gonna mention them? Is she not gonna mention them? I was like, yes, bitch. I'm mentioning them on International Women's Day. You knew that was coming, so you're welcome. Ruth Ware. Where can I start about Ruth Ware? Actually, I'm not gonna start, because I've talked about her more than anyone, I think, in every single mention. She was my first author sandwich, so you can find the video here where I review one by one, and, you know, dark wood, and I share why I love Ruth Ware so much. You know it. Go ahead, check it, read it again, connect with this beautiful woman. And last week I also reviewed The Death of Mrs Westaway, which happens to be my favorite book of hers so far. So I highly recommend this. I'll leave the card for my reviews and my author sandwich, and I'll link in the video down below if you want to check my thoughts on my favorite book of hers, The Death of Mrs Westaway. Okay, and last but not least, you know who I'm talking about, right? The one, the only, the dame, the author with whom I have a super deep emotional connection. Agatha Christie. I am not going to talk a lot about these books because I plan on reviewing all of her books. But I'm waiting for my mom to mail me my original copies in Portuguese, only because I have so many annotations in there. When I do my Agatha series, I want to compare what I think about the books now and do a reread project. But I also want to bring back and forth my, 11 to 16-year-old, my teenage years, opinions of the book, because I was a kid and just wrote on it and highlighted and things like that. So I'll save more of these, but I just wanted, on International Women's Day, talking about female authors, I cannot not talk about Agatha Christie. So the first book of hers I read was Murder on the Orient Express. I think a lot of people have heard about it, but it basically tells the stories of Poirot. It's a Poirot book. He's on this very luxurious first class wagon of the Orient Express. During the middle of the night, someone dies. There's only 12 people, that could have killed the guy, and Poirot is asked to informally investigate the crime because they are stuck due to a snowstorm. So the train is not moving. So they need to figure out who killed this guy and have like a, solution on a platter by the time they reach the next station. Murder on the Orient Express. Next, I will talk about 3 books that people don't talk a lot about, and I think are some of Agatha's bests. My underrated Poirot choice is 5 Little Pigs. 16 years ago, Amos has died, and Caroline, his wife, was convicted, and she died in prison. Her daughter now is engaged to be married, but she needs to know if her mom was really responsible for the murder, because our heroines, she doesn't feel it's right to marry anyone if she has a killer's blood running through her veins, but she really wants to know the truth so she can make her own decision. And Poirot investigates this by interviewing 5 people. So only 6 people could have killed Amos, Caroline, and then her sister, the governess, 2 brothers who are friends of the family, and Elsa, who happens to be Amos's mistress, who was at the house at the same time. So Poirot pieces together, and this is like a murder in retrospect, and is a character study. It is a romance. It is beautiful. The characters in here and the plot and everything. I think this is the most underrated Poirot book. It's just amazing. I wish more people would talk about this. I cannot fault this at all. Even if you don't like mysteries, you're gonna like what Agatha did in this. It almost reads as a contemporary book. Like, I highly recommend it, and I wish more people would talk about it. For Marple, my pick is The 13 Problems. I think Miss Marple shines in short stories. This is a collection of 13 of them. I do have my, novel favorites and everything, but I think not a lot of people give enough credit for Miss Marple in short story form. And this basically tells, like, Miss Marple is in this dinner party. Someone has a brilliant idea, say, oh, you know what? We have someone who used to work for the Scotland Yard, and we have like an ex-judge because they were all retired. Why don't you tell us a story? So the guests of the house take turns telling a mystery that happened in real life that they happen to know. the solution for. They just lay out the case, and then the other guests try to guess what the solution is, and then they tell you who is right. And it is just very nice. And all the stories, some of them are very different from each other. And Marple shines. She shines. Next one I have, I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to give too much of the plot away, of Agatha standalones, the ones that don't have like a detective or anything. I feel that at least 80% of them are masterpieces. It was really hard for me to choose one to talk about today, but The Crooked House is one that I have never heard anyone really, like, most people do not talk about it, and I think it needs to be talked about most. I do have like my honorable mentions in the Neo or None, of course, Ordeal by Innocence, Towards Zero. Like, honestly, most of them are fantastic, but Crooked House needs to be talked about more. It's another, you know, closed circuit mystery. It happens in a mansion. This old man dies, and his granddaughter, Sophie, between her and her fiance, she needs to know what really happened, because only someone who was at the house was capable to have committed the murder. Everybody hopes it was his grandfather's very, very, very young and unlikable wife, but they don't know. They just need to know for a fact, did she kill her grandfather? Because if she didn't, other than the Tudor that lives in the house, the only suspects are actually family, because we have Sophie's parents and 2 younger siblings, her grandmother's sister, and her aunt and uncle living in the house. And you know how it is, blood will tell. They really don't want anyone from the family, but she needs to know, and they investigate. And I think what she did with this book was gutsy and brilliant, and you have to read it so you can just goes. But anywho, those are my recommendations for my favorite authors, including some that I'm anticipating will be my favorite authors. I hope you enjoy this. Please, if you can, at least once or this month, if you read, try to prioritize female authors. Let's tell big publisher houses they are amazing. We love them. They should keep getting published and getting better deals, and sometimes even choose their own covers. But I digress. I hope you enjoy this. Have you read any of these books? Do you have any thoughts, any recommendations? Who is your favorite female author? Are you interested in reading any of these? Drop a comment down below and let me know, and let's do this. And come back next month for my CJ Tudor author sandwich. Until next time, guys, be the hummingbird.